Yeah, Mark's been taking calls.
Should I be talking to people like if I don't know?
Yeah, you can. And the other thing is that, I mean, come on, I can see it right from here on the frickin' monitor. Look at the background.
Yeah.
How absolutely incompetent do you have to be to actually get the back? Oh, I can't see it when I turn around. Obviously, we got blue screen. What is going on? Have we done a mic check or anything? Because I see all the calls lit up. Hello? I don't get any answers now. I bet I could pick some Yahoo from the chat room do a better job than what you guys are doing in here. There's like 30 freaking atheist groups that would love to have me come do their TV show, and I got to come in here and deal with this crap every week. It's always broken. You guys, when are we going live? Holy shit, we're live. April Fools.
Won't you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah. Gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion. It's gotta go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Atheist Experience Live. It's April 1st, 2012, and that's all of the tomfoolery that we actually are going to bother doing. Because as most of you know, not only is it a live show that used to be 90 minutes, but it's an hour now, and an hour seems to fly by, and we barely get to, I mean, there have been shows where we got like 2 calls in.
Yeah.
We'll try and do a little bit better today. I'm your host this week, Matt Dillon. Join me, Tracy Harris.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And this is a live public access television program sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. You can visit the website, www.atheist-community.org, for more information about the group. And you can visit the website for the show, www.atheist-experience.com. And there's actually an archive of old episodes and information you can find. I had Beth actually dug through the archives, and this is like my 236th show or something like that over the past 6+ years. So, yeah, and while my little prima donna tirade before the show was for amusement, we are constantly trying to make things better here. But as a reminder, it's a public access studio. We don't own this stuff. There's limited things we can change, and sometimes, being live TV with equipment that other people mess with, things are just going to go wrong. We'll do our best to get it working today, and we've already got full lines. I don't want to waste a whole bunch of time keeping people on hold. At quick reminders, after the show's over, we get together and go to dinner at El Arroyo. They'll have the address up probably before I'm even done talking about it, right down there. And this program is only one of many things that the ACA does, including 2 other podcasts, The Nonprofits and Godless Bitches. You can find out more information about both of those at the ACA website. There's a Sunday morning brunch, monthly lecture series, Monday night board games, Thursday night happy hour. The ACA's pub crawl is coming up Saturday, April 14th, meeting at the Dog and Duck. You can find information about all of those events at the website. There's also a frequently asked questions page and tons of other information, ways to get a hold of us. If you don't get through on the phone today or you don't want to, you can send an email to tv@atheist-community.org. That goes to myself, the co-host, a lot of people behind the scenes. There's no telling if you'll get an answer or who might be answering you, but we do our best to read all of them. I'm a little behind, as always. I don't even know why I bother saying it. It should just be a given. Matt's never going to catch up on email. So how are you?
Good.
Did you survived the party last night?
I did.
Yeah, there was a drunken rout at my house last night, which actually was kind of tame.
Yeah.
We're just boring people. There was kind of nothing to it. Did you enjoy any particular April Fool's events today?
My favorite one was the blog about us getting picked up by Fox News.
Yes.
I thought that was really good. I even posted a comment saying that it's about change from the inside, and that it would be like joining the KKK to promote racial equality and change the organization from the inside. And
it's not that far from things that I've actually been accused of. That, for example, God is keeping me here until after the rapture so that I can, make the changes after the rapture to lead people back to God type thing. I wish we
Interesting.
were. I wish we were on Fox News. You know, like right after Bill O'Reilly to correct things. But anyway, that's what we got. We got full phone lines. We'll go ahead and get started right now. We got Luca in New York. How are you?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty good.
All right. Hey, Tracy, do you remember me from all the pestering with philosophical questions on Facebook?
I don't know. The name Lucas sounds familiar, but I get a lot of questions.
I can imagine. All right. So I have, I think, a pretty solid argument against, standard Christianity, which is based on basically mathematical inevitability, statistics, and it's this: if something is impossible, even if you attempt it for eternity, it will never happen. Whereas if something is possible, it's extremely unlikely if you have an infinite number of times in which you can try it. Not only is it possible that it will happen, but it's like mathematically inevitable that it will happen.
Sure.
So that's just the mathematical basics, right? And then I just take two assumptions which are well within Orthodox Christianity, which are one, that if you go to hell, if you die and go to hell, you're stuck there forever, and two, the devil used to be an angel and was cast down from heaven into hell. So from that, you just apply that, and it means that if you go to hell, you're stuck there forever. It's impossible for you to go to heaven. But we know for a fact that it's possible to go from heaven to hell because it happened to the devil. And therefore, if it's possible, and everybody in heaven has an infinite number of opportunities for that to happen to them, for something along the lines of what happened to the devil to happen to them, like they piss off God or something, then it's statistically inevitable that they all will end up in hell eventually, maybe after billions of years. But everybody from the Pope to the apostles, the Archangel Gabriel, everybody is just statistically doomed to do the same thing that the devil did, as long as they have free will, which allegedly they do. And so every single entity that God ever created is bound to eventually end up in hell, tortured forever. So that really compounds the evil nature of this God entity.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do we know that angels aren't different than people?
We know that angels aren't different than people.
Yeah.
So this whole thing might only apply to angels, and humans are safe from it?
I wouldn't know, but I mean, I'm just asking.
Right.
Obviously, it's hypothetical.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I guess we don't know, but then if you make that same argument, you could say, how do you know that the devil is not being different from other angels or in some way unique, so that all of this only applies to him?
He could be. I guess.
It
I mean,
could be.
theoretically,
I guess it could be,
hypothetically,
so.
he could be. The other question I had, and this is just not even really, I don't even know how it applies, but what is the in-between, like in between heaven and hell? Like what happens to people when they die, but they're not in heaven or hell yet? Like there's been no judgment yet, and they're dead. What is that? Like how does that fit in?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because Jesus went and preached to the dead, and yet he went to heaven later. So when you were saying no one can be in hell and go to heaven, it's like, well, I don't know if he was in hell, but he went somewhere where the dead people were and like preached
Oh yeah,
to them.
actually, Tracy, you're right. There's a passage in Revelation that says that Jesus did go to hell and preside over the torturing of
Well, I think what he did was, I thought he preached to the dead souls. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna sit here and get a whole bunch of things wrong when we start dealing with little fantasy stories, especially some of them that come from different doctrine, like the harrowing of hell is not like a Protestant doctrine at all. But
those are just the questions I would ask if someone approached me with that. I guess that would be the first things that I would think of.
This is one of those things that sorry, but even if you got it right, it has absolutely no impact.
Based on imaginary stuff, so I was just trying to have some fun with it.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Thanks for calling.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right, bye-bye. All right. We've got Brooks in Shreveport. How are you?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
My two favorite hosts.
Oh, thank you.
I've recently, quote unquote, come out as an atheist to my family and whatnot, and they're all very, very Christian, so it was kind of difficult. But I'm very new to arguing with Christians and stuff like that. And the reason I haven't come out until now is because I've been uncomfortable arguing with Christians, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. So recently somebody posted a picture on Facebook that was like talking about how homosexuality is inconsistent, or it's inconsistent to say that homosexuality is a sin, but wearing a polycotton blingy sweater is not.
Sure.
You know. And then some Christian got on there and said, "Oh my God, we live in the New Testament now. We don't live in the Old Testament anymore. This doesn't apply." Blah blah blah.
Cool. So let's chuck out the Ten Commandments.
And I challenged. I'm sorry.
Then let's chuck out the Ten Commandments.
Oh yeah, exactly. And so
the Genesis
I
story.
challenged that. I challenged his comment by saying, well, why is God changing his mind? He's supposed to be unchanging, and if it's moral then, it should be moral now. And
yeah, it's kind of sad that basically we're expected to know more about their Bible and their religion than they are. And whenever somebody just wants to shrug off the entirety of the Old Testament, I just pretty much look at them and shake my head, because when you when you do that, first of all, you get rid of the creation story, you get rid of the fall, which is the entire reason that you need some sort of sacrifice in the New Testament. You get rid of the Ten Commandments, you get rid of a butt ton of laws. You also get rid of everything that Christians would like to claim as prophecy for their New Testament. And so if we just set all of that aside and we go with the New Testament, what are we left with? Well, we're left with a couple of obvious known forgeries, some anonymous documentation. By the way, the New Testament's also against homosexuality. Paul's very clear about that. So, and then you've got the ravings of a lunatic to close it off with things that don't make much sense that people can interpret in any way they want. I don't really see much value in that, but if they want to be just a New Testament, believer and not an Old Testament believer, that's fine. There's plenty of stuff to challenge in the new one. Slavery is still acknowledged and supported, and matter of fact, it's encouraged for slaves to obey their masters, including the cruel masters, and I think that that's an immoral proclamation, and that the only thing you should tell a slave is to get out as fast as you can, and if you got a cruel master, you take whatever steps are necessary to escape and help others do it. How hard was that to write?
Well, we eventually, me and this guy, we got in a pretty lengthy argument, and he was talking about, let me see if I can pull up that word, because I'm unfamiliar with the word. Where'd it go? Dispensations, and how, it kind of nixes off the law and all that stuff. And then the fact that Jesus was crucified fulfills the law, and that's why we don't have to get circumcised anymore, and all that bullshit.
How fortunate.
I was wondering.
I'm really glad that God had to come down and take human form and be tortured and die so that we could stop cutting off parts of people's penises. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, see, I just didn't know how to respond to him. So, like I said, I'm new to this whole arguing thing, and I'm not really that comfortable with it. So I didn't know how to respond to him when he said that.
I think most Christians don't really even understand how the law and the new, like the Old and New Testament. You have to remember, like that heading New Testament, that divider in the Bible that says New Testament, that's added. There is no original manuscript for that divider. People put that in, and the idea is that you had this law. Yahweh made this deal with the Hebrews specifically. And a guy named Abraham, and he made a deal, and he said, I'll give you all this land, and I'll make your, descendants this great nation, and your job is to worship me solely, and wherever you go, I will protect you. And this was kind of unique because most gods were territorial gods, and so he was saying, I will travel with you and protect you everywhere, and you do everything I say, and I will, give you all this cool stuff. And so him and Abraham make the deal, and the Hebrew history in the Old Testament is one of, like, they keep falling away, and then God reneges on parts of the deal, and because they fell away and didn't keep their part of the deal, they weren't still worshiping him, and so he would say, well, then I'm going to have you enslaved, and so this goes on for a long time. And in the meantime, they have this law, this, like, elaborate, crazy, almost like Sharia-like law, where they're killing all these animals to atone for their sins. Like, say, sacrifice these animals makes up for your sin. The idea in the New Testament with Jesus, like, after they get the story with the resurrection and all of that, you get this concept that comes out of that is that he was that sort of final perfect sacrifice so that no more animals now have to be slaughtered in order to atone for your wrongdoing, because now there's a human sacrifice that was like a God sacrifice as well, that is a perfect sacrifice that atones for sin all across the board now. And so from that, you end up with people saying, well, we don't have this law anymore. But there becomes a big confusion that happens because the law never applied to anybody but the Hebrews anyway. Okay, it wasn't a law for anybody but the Hebrews. So unless you're a Jew, you're not bound to that full gamut of the law as a Christian, because Christians they were a subset of Jews, and then they started taking in Gentiles. And then there's these debates that happen in the Bible. Like you can see in the New Testament, the arguments about can we take non-Jews into this group of, the Christian churches, or should we not? And if we do take them in, what are they obligated to? Do they have to become Jews first? Do they have to convert to Judaism in order to be a Christian? And there's all these debates that happen in, like, Acts, for example. You've got Acts 15, Acts 21. And ultimately it's very confused. There's not like a resolution. But ultimately how I read it is that Paul finally, who was like the Gentile champion of put Gentiles in the church, he finally comes down on the side of the Jews should keep the law, but the Jews in the church, the Christian Jews, should keep the law. The Gentile Christians need to come in, and there's some laws they should keep because everybody knows these laws, and Moses has been preached in the synagogues for years and years and years, and these are good laws, and so they need to keep to the sexual immorality laws. They need to refrain from meat sacrificed to idols. They don't need to be circumcised, and they don't have to, the rest of the law will kind of let them off, because if you make them have to adhere to the Jewish law, it's just going to lower our numbers. So kind of as a weird marketing thing, Paul makes this compromise where he says, let's make them adhere to some of the law. But the Jewish Christians are going to adhere to all of it, and not only are they going to adhere to all of it, but they're going to raise their children in the law as well while they're in the Christian church. So the idea that the law is just done away with is sort of like this blanket thing that Christians are taught from a pulpit, but not many of them actually go into their Bibles and read the details about what exactly was going on with that.
This actually, there's a couple of things that tie together, which I think demonstrably prove that the bulk of the Christian and Jewish doctrine is false. And that is that Jews are under the Abrahamic covenant and Gentiles are under the Noahic covenant, because the Bible teaches that everybody on earth is spawned from the 8 people who survived on Noah's Ark. And since we know that that's a bunch of hogwash, clearly their entire basis for making a distinction between two groups is false. And when we go back to this idea of original sin and the idea that not only are you presumed guilty or born guilty because of this introduction of sin, but that the covenant that you're under is based on your bloodline and all these other things, when scientifically we know we can trace our ancestry back, and that there are civilizations that appear to be completely oblivious to this global flood thing and the survival of 8 species. Or 8 individuals. It's one of those things where there are Christians who say, well, of course it wasn't a global flood. And there are other Christians who will say that it was a global flood. The ones that are saying it was, some of them are saying so because they understand that there's a big problem with their theology if it wasn't a global flood. If it was just a regional flood where these 8 people survived, and so you've got this 8 people spawning a couple of lineages, one that leads to the Jews and one that leads to the Gentiles. What about all of those other people who lived in other areas? They're not under either one of those covenants, and none of this stuff applies to them. It's this web of absurdity that you get when people who don't know what actually happened in the past start writing a history about what happened in the past.
If you try to get clarification, if you're looking for what is the Christian Orthodox view on the law, you're not going to find consensus. And there's not going to be like, oh, here's what Christians think about they're all going to have this concept of this, there's a different thing now. But as far as how it applies and why and what to do with it, they're all different. You're not going to. It's going to be a hard argument because they all have different ideas about it, and most of them are going to change their ideas and start tweaking them as soon as they have to start answering questions because they haven't looked into it before. Most of them.
But we got off on a lot of information, Brooks, and I'd
Sorry.
say just with regard to your issue, don't worry about it. You're not required to prove them wrong. That's a shifting of the burden of proof. You're not required to be an expert about what they believe. They need to make their case, and if they're unable to do it, if there's absolutely nothing wrong with you saying, I'm just not convinced, or even, I'm just not interested.
And, well, one thing
in
really
having these
quickly,
discussions.
there's two questions that can wrap it really fast so that you don't have to go down this road at all if you still want to deal with the law issue, and that is, do you believe that, you could ask the person, do you believe that God imposed that law in the Old Testament, that it was in effect and it was from God? And if so, do you agree that it's immoral? And if they're not willing to admit that it's an immoral law, then they have to defend it whether they think they're under it now or not, because they have to say that at the time it was imposed, it was moral to, for example, kill gay people. If they want to say it wasn't ever moral, then they have to say whether or not they think their God imposed that law. And if they'll say, no, God had nothing to do with the law, they're off the hook, but that makes other problems. If they say God did impose that law, then they do have to answer the question, do you agree that it was an immoral law?
Right. All right, well, I think that pretty much sums it all up.
All right.
And I can watch this later and take notes.
Okay. Thanks for calling in,
thanks.
Brooks. Bye-bye. All right, we got Dale in Queensland. Thanks for waiting.
How you going, Matt?
Hello.
You hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yep.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. My question is to you, Matt, is do you believe that you're an atheist?
Yes. That's the label. That's one of the labels that I use. Yeah.
Well, this is my question to you. You cannot believe you're an atheist because atheists do not have a belief system.
No. No, that's not.
Atheist. Checkmate.
Dale, that's not true. The fact that atheism is not a belief system doesn't mean that atheists don't have beliefs.
As people.
I have lots of beliefs, and all that is separate from whether or not atheism is a belief system, which it's not. I can believe I'm an atheist for the same reason I can believe I'm a male. Male is not a belief system either.
So why would some atheists say that atheism is a lack of belief?
Atheism is a lack of belief in God claims, not a lack of belief in anything.
All right. Cool. I've got other questions too. All right. Just bear with me. Matt, does it require? Is faith required to be an atheist?
No.
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 So faith wouldn't be required for you to be an atheist, wouldn't it?
No, faith is not required to be an atheist.
So if you believe you're an atheist, then how can you say you got no faith that you're an atheist? To me, it's not logical, because belief and having faith are the same thing. Don't you agree?
No, I don't agree. Faith is the reason that people give for having a belief when they don't have good reasons. Faith is not a belief. It's the attempted justification that people offer for a belief. You can believe all sorts of things, and you can believe them for good reasons, and you can believe them for bad reasons. I choose to believe things for good reasons. Well, I don't even think I choose to believe. I think I'm forced by rationality to believe things for good reasons, or to prefer to believe things for good reasons. So I'm an atheist, which simply means I do not believe that a God exists. I don't have to have faith to believe that. It's the default position, by the way. Somebody claims, hey, a God exists, and my default position is, I don't believe it. Can you prove it?
It's like the Bigfoot thing. If you say, I don't believe a Bigfoot exists, that doesn't mean that I don't have other beliefs in other things. It just means I don't believe that.
Do you believe that?
Do I believe
in Bigfoot?
No, I don't.
Well, how come it's shown on TV shows like Unsolved Mysteries?
Because it's an unsolved mystery? If it was solved, then you'd have a justification to believe it.
It's shown on TV, Bigfoot and that. You can't, yeah. My next question is...
Wait, Dale?
Yeah?
Do you believe Bigfoot exists?
No, not really.
It's shown on TV.
Yeah, even though it's shown on TV, I need to see where in history Bigfoot actually exists.
Does it take faith to not believe in Bigfoot?
Sorry?
Does it take faith not to believe in Bigfoot?
It takes disbelief, unbelief.
But that's not faith, right?
That's unbelief.
Right, so it's like unfaith.
It's unbelieving, right?
Right, so it's
like
not faith.
yeah,
it's not faith, it's unbelief, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So you already understand all this stuff. You already understand the exact same examples we've given.
Matt, a Christian, right? Christians have faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think most of them would, yeah.
All right. Is atheism based on truth or fact?
I think you answered it before. It's based on unbelief.
Oh, so atheism is based on unbelief then?
Yes.
Atheism is disbelief
right.
of the God claims. It's not a position that is based. Well, the reason that I'm an atheist is because I'm a skeptic and a critical thinker, and when I am presented with the claim a God exists, and I evaluate the evidence supporting that claim, I find the evidence lacking. So I persist in my disbelief. I don't need to have evidence that there isn't a God in order to be justified.
Just like you don't need evidence there's not a Bigfoot. Yeah. You would need evidence there is a Bigfoot, right? You don't need evidence there's not a Bigfoot to not believe it. You need evidence there is one to be convinced there is one. Until you get that evidence, you just don't believe it because you haven't gotten the evidence that makes you a believer.
And I'm a little worried at this point, Dale, because you know we've had a little back and forth in questions and things, and we've answered them. And it seems almost like you're reading from a script where one question necessarily follows from an expected answer from the previous one, and you're not getting the expected answers.
But he does seem to be listening to our answers. I'll give you that.
So I'm a good listener. I'll let you speak in that. I just got another question, Matt. I've been watching your Atheist Experience videos, and I noticed that you said you were a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing I want to know here from you, is when you prayed, did you pray according to God's word, yes or no?
Yes.
So you had faith that God would answer your prayer? Yes. So if you had faith that God would answer your prayers, would you say now that you have faith in God?
No, I'd say that I used to believe based on faith, and it was irrational of me to do so, and when I discovered that, I couldn't believe any longer.
How did you discover that?
How did I discover what?
That it was irrational.
Oh.
That God is not real.
Sure. I spent a couple years in study in the hopes of eventually becoming a minister, and I read some things that specifically challenged my beliefs, and then when I went to go seek answers, both from other believers and in prayer and in reading, and I found that the things that I assumed to be true for my entire life, or the things that I had been led to believe were true, were based on really bad evidence, logical fallacies, and so the next step of this was, okay, well maybe some of these people just don't really have great arguments for it. There must be some good argument for it. But failing to find one of those, the only position that is available at that point is to not believe. If you care about what's true, and that was one of the critical things, was saying, I don't want to believe something just because I've always believed it, or because my family believes it, or because it kind of felt real to me at some time, or because I would prefer that it's true. I want to believe things because they're actually true. And if we can't demonstrate that it's true, then we shouldn't believe it.
My next question, I'll move on. All right. Matt, why did atheists not believe in God when atheists talk about God?
Sorry, one more time?
Because other people have a concept of God. We're responding to other people's claims about God.
The same reason that people who don't believe in Bigfoot
Talk about Bigfoot. Yeah.
Well, atheists say there is no God. Well, guess what, Matt? If an atheist says to me there is no God, guess what?
What?
Prophetic evangelist Dale Allen would say to that atheist who says that there is no God, I would say, hey, stop right there. You stop right there. The first two words you said were there is before you said no God, so there is a God.
Seriously?
There is no Bigfoot means there is a Bigfoot?
There is.
Yeah.
First of all, Dale, atheism is not necessarily the assertion that there is no God. Atheism is the disbelief of God claims. Now, it's consistent with atheism for some atheists to say that they believe that there are no gods, but that's a separate proposition. So when you say, an atheist says there is no God, I have to say, no, that's not necessarily true. Just like somebody who doesn't believe in Bigfoot doesn't necessarily claim that there is no Bigfoot. But if you're gonna play a little word game of saying, "Oh, you said there is no God," and the first two words are "there is," then there must be a God. That's
here's the thing. Like
it's basically it's not crazy. It's just saying there is. You acknowledge God before you even say no God. So in one concept, the concept that I got was there is no God. Well, there is because you said there is, and then you say no God.
Right, you negate it.
No is in there.
There's the thing, though, Dale. What you need to do is on your list of questions, plug in Bigfoot instead of God and see how they work. And if they don't fly with Bigfoot, then skip to the next question. If somebody says there is no Bigfoot, I think clearly you understand they are not saying there is a Bigfoot, right? I mean, you do understand that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't do the same thing with God that you wouldn't do with Bigfoot. So,
but I'm just correcting what
straws.
atheists is. Because they had to say the first two words were there is before they said no God.
Same with Bigfoot. But you know that a person saying there is no Bigfoot does not mean there is a Bigfoot.
Hey, you know what? I can also say no gods exist. I didn't start with there is, I started with no. So clearly, no gods exist. I'm right?
You said you know.
No, I didn't say I know. I said no gods exist. N-O, as in none.
All right. So, I'll move on. Thanks for trying to answer the question.
Sure.
My question, Matt, have you ever, so I hear from some atheists that they know that they're an atheist, but the one thing is you got the agnostics and the atheists. You got the agnostics say that there might be a God, and the atheists say there is no God. How do you define the two?
Okay, first of all, assuming I'm not being punked for some show, the difference between Gnosticism and agnosticism address what you know or claim to know. Theism and atheism address what you believe or claim to believe. They're not mutually exclusive terms because knowledge is a subset of belief. So you could be an agnostic theist, a Gnostic theist, an agnostic atheist, and a Gnostic atheist. Any of those would be valid to say that I believe there's a God and I know there's a God, or I believe there's a God but I don't know there's a God, or I don't believe there's a God but I don't claim to know that, which is the position that most atheists are fine with. And then there's the I don't believe there's a God and I know that there's no God. And that position, depending on your definition of knowledge, may not be sound. But these aren't mutually exclusive terms, and it's not something that you can say, oh, atheists say there's no God, and agnostics say there might possibly be a God. The correct thing would be to say that atheists don't believe there's a God, and agnostics, at least some categories of agnostics, just don't want to claim what they do or don't believe.
All right. Thanks for that. Another question, Matt. Have you ever read the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation?
Yeah, several times.
Tell me, how many times have you read the Bible?
Why?
Why? It's because every time I read the Bible, I pick up something new every time I read it.
Me too. And that's why the first time when I read it when I was a younger kid is slightly different from when I read it when I was older, and then when I read it in this process of transitioning from wanting to be a minister to ultimately ending up in atheism, I found out new things. Things that I had previously read or thought that I had read just didn't stick. So I've probably read it well, I can't really say in single sitting, cover to cover. I would guess 3 times, but the bulk of it, we're talking, I was a fundamentalist Christian for 25 plus years, and by the way, in the last 10, 11 years that I've been an atheist, I continue to read the Bible in order to be able to answer questions for the Christians who don't know what the Bible says.
Wow, that's pretty amazing coming from you. I'll move on, Matt. Thanks for trying to answer my question.
Sure.
Tell me, have you ever been taught, preached to, pastored about having a relationship with Jesus Christ?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Has anybody ever talked to you about having a relationship with
more
Jesus
or less,
Christ?
have you ever been told that you got to have a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ?
Yes. And I've also told people that too when I was a Christian and was witnessing to people.
All right, cool. Well, that's what true Christianity is all about.
According to you.
Do you believe that? I want to know from your proof there is no God. I want to know from your logical standpoint that there is no God. Like, without using science, without using evolution, I want to know how there is no God.
Okay, first of all, and I apologize because I was going to let Tracy just answer this, but I've got to jump in.
That's right.
Because first of all, as I've explained 2 or 3 times now, atheism isn't necessarily the assertion that there is no God, and I haven't asserted here that there is no God. But even if I did, for you to expect somebody to prove that there is no God and then start eliminating science and evolution is patently absurd, because science, I don't care that much about evolution in this case because it doesn't necessarily address the question, but science is the single most consistently reliable method we have for discerning the true nature of reality. And if you want to just chuck it out the window and expect somebody to prove a point without it, that is crazy. So it's like for me to tell you, I want you to prove that I don't have $100 in my wallet, but you're not allowed to ask anybody and you're not allowed to touch my wallet or look inside. Go ahead, prove it.
Well, to me, basically, you just said that you got $50 in your wallet, so why would you want to try and prove that to me?
Actually, I said I had $100 in my wallet, which goes back to your ability to listen.
Sorry.
But so my point was, you're asking somebody to disprove something, then taking away the tools that might be useful for that. And that's a dishonest way to address... What's that?
That's like when some atheists talk about Christians, where some atheists say, try and prove there is God without the Bible, but we need the Bible. Just like holy man of old wrote the Bible, but scientists have written a book about science. How do you go about that? Science can be wrong.
Yeah, actually it can, but when you're saying don't use science, you're saying don't use a method of applying reason and skepticism to assess evidence. And when somebody says, hey, prove this without the Bible, it's because the Bible isn't a method, and it is not a demonstrable path to truth or understanding, and it won't prove a single thing. You can freely, if I say, why do you believe, you can cite the Bible all day long, and it has no more impact than if you cited Mother Goose. It does for you because you already believe it. I don't tend to tell people, oh, prove it without using the Bible, because I understand that whether they use the Bible, even their use of the Bible wouldn't get us any closer to a proof.
How do you know that, Matt?
Because old books aren't a pathway to truth about supernatural claims. These claims need evidence to support them. Are you saying that the fact that I actually, what are you saying about the Bible?
But what could be contained in a statement that could demonstrate the existence of something? How does a statement demonstrate the existence of some thing that is in an objective real sense.
Well, we know that history is history, right?
Sorry, what?
History is history?
History is history, right?
Well, yeah, I'm all down. I'm down with tautologies.
All right. So what I'm trying to say is, basically, can you prove to me and to everyone else over the world that there is no God without using science or evolution to try and back up those claims?
I don't even know if I could prove
yes
it.
Or no.
I don't
yes
even know if I don't even know if I could prove it using science. It would depend on the definition of a God. But I don't have a burden of proof here, and that doesn't address Tracy's question about why you think that the Bible or any statement would be enough to confirm the existence of a God or a supernatural claim.
Well, I'll answer that for her. But I didn't answer it straight away, Tracy. Well, I can prove true. Basically, history tells us Jesus in the Bible, and we go by history. I've studied history and I've taken to.
Hello?
Are you still there?
Please don't lose him now.
Oh, no, he's there.
Yeah, Dale, go ahead.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right, cool. All right. Why I can prove the Bible is true and accurate is because history proves that Jesus Christ was born of a virgin and that Jesus Christ was sinless and he came to die on a cross and the birth of life history.
Okay, hold on a minute, Dale. You're breaking up a little bit, but let me just explain to you what my problem would be. Let's say that Jesus was born from a virgin, that we were able to test Mary's, body and say, wow, she had never had sex and there was no in vitro, and yet she had this child. And then later he's killed, he's executed, and we confirm that he was executed and killed. And then 3 days later, he's alive again, and we confirm he's alive again. That doesn't demonstrate a God exists, even if all of that is completely true.
And what's more important is that your assertion...
How does it demonstrate a God exists, Dale? How does that have anything to do with a God? You haven't demonstrated God had any hand in any of that.
When Jesus was born, it was a miracle, and basically miracles have been proved.
If Jesus was born in a way that was like no one could explain it, you still have to demonstrate, if you think a God caused it, you have to show a God exists and that a God did cause it. And you haven't done it by simply showing the miracle. Even if there was a miracle birth, you haven't demonstrated a cause. That's why the Bible doesn't demonstrate God. No matter what's in it, if you could show me every prophecy in it and demonstrate that it's an amazing, provable prophecy, that it really is real prophecy and it qualifies and it was predicted in a way that's just, we can't even explain it. And what that means, guess what, is we can't explain it. You have to demonstrate a God did it. The claim that God did it is not evidence God did it.
The Bible says that. I go by the Bible. The Bible says that.
I know you do. I know you do, and you believe the claims in the Bible, but my point is, even if everything in the Bible happened, you have not demonstrated the cause is an existent God.
Well, how can you believe science is real by just looking into what their claims have been throughout history of what they've told about diseases?
That's a red herring there, Dale, because we're not talking about science. We're talking about belief in God and rejection of belief in God, and you are saying that you want to use the Bible and you feel it's unfair that somebody asks you to throw out the Bible when you're trying to prove God. And I'm trying to explain to you it saves everybody a lot of time by simply telling you don't bother using the Bible because it doesn't demonstrate a God exists. And I'm asking if you can understand why.
I can understand why. It's because history tells of the birth and the cross of Jesus. Like there's been try and say that to over 2 billion Americans that have had near-death experience and see where you come.
Near-death experience doesn't demonstrate a God. Wow. You have to demonstrate a cause, and you have not.
What about the medical science? What about the medical reports of people risen from the dead? Explain that. There's evidence of people risen from the dead. It's evidence.
Even if you can prove an afterlife, you haven't demonstrated a God.
Dale, first of first of all, history doesn't completely bear out your Bible in the way that you'd like to pretend it does, because there is no contemporary extra-biblical evidence that confirms any significant event of Jesus' life, including his name or his birth date or anything else. The Bible gets a number of things wrong. That's why there's a significant challenge from some historians and Bible scholars about whether or not a Jesus even existed. So history is not quite as on your side as you think it was. But Tracy's point is that even if it was, and even if all this was confirmed, what we would be left with is a mystery, because the events themselves do not testify to a cause. You have to demonstrate.
I'll lay down the line for you. I will prove to you that God exists. I'll answer Tracy's question. God exists just by simply, you got a voice, haven't you? You can speak.
Yes, I can speak. I think that's kind of a question you don't need to ask.
Are you willing to call out to God and ask his son Jesus Christ to show you himself to you in a dream or a vision?
Sure.
Are you willing to do that?
And what makes you think I haven't done that?
Well, I'm not thinking that way. You said that. But what I'm trying to say is I've seen Jesus Christ in visions and dreams, and I know that he is real just by basically seen in dreams and visions.
Okay, well, wait a second. I can sit here and say, I can sit here today and say I'm going to call out to my mother to come visit me in a dream. And if I dream about her tonight, you're saying that means that my mother caused the dream about her and not that I was thinking about having a dream about her?
No, you said that you're going to call out to your mum, didn't you?
I said if I did say, like, Mom, come to me tonight in a dream, and then tonight, after I suggest that to myself, I have a dream about my mom, you're saying that there's some sort of miracle there where my mother caused me to dream about her and not just that I invoked that dream myself by suggesting it?
Are you trying to suggest, well, basically, what I'm trying to say is basically God is supernatural, he's a spirit, and...
A dream doesn't prove that, though.
Sorry?
See, a dream doesn't prove that, though.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Dale.
Why did so many people say follow your dreams for?
Wow. Okay, first of all,
equivocation.
You said a whole bunch of little things that I really wanted to hit on and couldn't. One of them was the how do you explain that, which, by the way, is a fallacy called argument from ignorance. When you were talking about near-death experiences, your basic argument is that people have these experiences, and if we can't offer some alternative explanation, then clearly they actually did die and go to heaven and all the stories are real. That is a fallacy. It's simply not true. The other thing is that near-death experiences are one of those things that have entered the cultural mindset, so it's not really that unlikely that people would have them. But people tend to have near-death experiences and visions and things that mesh with the religious beliefs and religious imagery that they already have. Not in every case, but in most of them. And so you would be simultaneously arguing that Protestantism and Catholicism and all these various ideas with differing soteriological positions would actually be true. But moreover, what Tracy's talking about is she was like, you're claiming that because you called out to a God, and I was dumbfounded, and I apologize when you said I believe it because I had dreams, and now you're saying, well, why do people say trust your dreams or go with your dreams or whatever? Platitudes and wishful thinking does not truth make. And by the way, can you demonstrate that Tracy's mom isn't a supernatural being with the power to visit her in dreams?
Well, she's got a spirit, and that's eternal.
He thinks she is supernatural.
So you think Tracy's mom is supernatural? So
yes.
If Tracy calls out to her mom to visit her...
I didn't say that. I said, well, she's got an eternal spirit. Now...
Wait, the spirit's not supernatural?
Sorry?
Spirit isn't supernatural?
The spirit can witness the supernatural.
How do you know that?
What is a spirit?
And what the heck is a spirit then? Is it physical?
I've seen so many people talk about coming out of their bodies and going into these light tunnels and,
hey, Dale?
experiences seeing heaven and hell.
Dale? Do you believe that extraterrestrials are visiting the planet Earth and abducting people?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you believe that extraterrestrials are visiting the planet Earth and abducting people?
Oh, you're talking about aliens?
Yes. Sorry.
Well, that's something that America's talked about, with aliens and that. But the one thing I know about is I haven't seen any aliens land here yet, but
Sure.
actually...
Have you seen a God land here?
But the one thing is, Jesus Christ, I've seen him in a vision, in a dream.
Okay, and there's plenty of people you can talk to who will tell you of their experiences that happened late at night where an alien came in and captured them and abducted them and performed experiments on them. And by the way, you can talk to a bunch of people who are living today who will tell you this story, so you don't have to rely on old stories. You can talk to a variety of them, and their stories are very similar, and their stories seem to support each other. And then you add in things like the fact that there are people who witness unidentified flying objects, including entire groups of people. And then you add in something scientific like the Drake equation that demonstrates that it's highly unlikely that in this vast universe, Earth is the only place where life existed. And you can start to calculate a probability about whether or not those things are true. But in your case, I'm assuming that you don't believe that aliens are abducting people because you immediately went to the excuse of, I haven't seen it. Well, what you've seen is irrelevant. If you're willing to chuck away all of this evidence for alien abductions and yet accept this evidence about a God, you have different... What?
Do you believe in aliens?
No, well, do I believe in aliens?
Yeah.
I believe that it's very probable that there's other life in the universe. I can't say, I don't claim to know for sure. We might be the only ones, we might be the first ones, other ones might have died off, I can't say, but what I can say is that it seems highly improbable that we are the only planet in this vast universe where some sort of life formed.
I think you should qualify the abduction thing.
But I do not believe for 1 second, but I do not believe that aliens are visiting Earth.
Do you believe in the Bermuda Triangle? Do you believe what science has said about the Bermuda Triangle?
Yes, I believe what
people go missing.
Yes, I believe what science has said about the Bermuda Triangle, which is that there's absolutely nothing to that there's what science has said about the Bermuda Triangle is that there's absolutely nothing to these mythological stories. There's nothing supernatural going on. There's nothing mysterious, and it's not a triangle, and it's not even the same coordinates. Yeah, I believe what science has to say about it.
Then where are all these people go missing to then? Explain that.
Dale, we're done. Really.
Yeah, I think we've spent a lot of time.
We spent a whole bunch of time on this stuff.
I mean, and we're happy to answer your questions, but we do have other callers that have been waiting the entire show. So.
Yeah, and we've bounced around to 20 subjects, and we're right back to arguments from
I want to have your permission to broadcast this on my YouTube account. Would I be able to do that with your permission?
Absolutely. Matter of fact,
thumbs up.
I have to. Dale, stop. I have to direct you to the Atheist Experience webpage where the instructions, because all of our content is released by Creative Commons license, and anything that you're posting on YouTube needs to be directed back to us. So you're going to need to visit that page and follow the instructions there, but there's nothing difficult about this at all, and we will be happy to let you post this conversation.
All right, cool. Thanks for your time, and if I've offended you in any point, forgive me if I've offended you in any way.
Not
at
offended.
All right, cool. All right. Thanks for your time. You have a nice day, and
Thank you.
We'll talk again some other time.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks for the warning that we're going to talk again another time. No, I'm actually. Maybe we'll get further instead of kind of going back, because I can't believe we got through so many different things. And then right there again, another argument.
Causation.
Yeah. Well, how do you explain all those missing planes?
I don't know. Have you explained it? And I just didn't
By the way, the Bermuda Triangle isn't an explanation.
No, it's not.
All the stories about it is just a big mystery.
Yeah.
It's not like that,
Again, if it's all true, we still don't know. We still don't have a cause.
So Sam in Tucson, thanks for waiting.
Hey, Matt, Tracy, my favorite people.
Yay.
Hello.
Hi. I was thinking about just the hypocrisy of what people believe from what their leaders or whoever started the religion was about. So I had run into some Hare Krishnas recently. Have you run into these guys at all?
I had a best friend, Hare Krishna, in college.
Did you?
I did. Nicest guy you ever want to meet.
I know.
Nicer than a Mormon?
What is with
Nice.
the abstinence and fasting? And I mean, it's like they're so emaciated. They look like skeletons.
He was very
Oh.
thin, yeah.
Anyway, I ran into some people on a flight recently, and I was curious about. I'm an atheist, but I like to study about other religions, and especially when they're so weird or strange, you know. So I wanted to know about what it is that they believe. But they kept talking about what they do. It was more on what they eat, what they don't do. Like even if they're married, they have to abstain from sex at certain times and all this.
Yeah, I don't know that level of detail. I do know that it's like it's a modern kind of brand of Hindu. I feel weird even saying that because probably people who are traditional Hindu would be like, this is not Hindu. But that's where it comes from. I mean, it comes out of that whole, you'll see Krishna and stuff like that, and they do have like the Bhagavad Gita as their, you know, the book they go to. And the cooking is like extremely meticulously done. He gave me a cookbook. It was like Tassajara cooking, and the whole thing that you can't do the meat, and you can't, nothing that pot has touched meat, can't cook in that. And the diet was really restricted. The guy I knew, they had picked out a wife for him that he was going to marry.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, but he was all good with it. I mean, he was all happy, and he was happy to debate, to argue, and never lost his temper, would just sit and talk to anybody who wanted to talk about anything, knew more about the Bible than any Christian I ever knew at that time, was very... You know, really, he was really good when it came to like history, as far as like the history of the Bible and all of that. But yeah, they have a lot of restrictions, and it's like it's pretty cultish. You know, not going to kid you, it was kind of strange, but nice people.
Yeah, and you know, it's just what you said. They know a lot about the Bible, and as they were talking to me, it almost seemed like they were sort of like Jesus kind of people. You know, like this is exactly what Jesus must have looked like and acted like. Because,
probably, I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
You know, they're wearing these robes, and you know, they're walking around, and it was just like, wow, you know. And I'm sure Jesus, I don't know how he was with the diet, I think, but definitely abstinence and. Meekness and humility and you know, take no thought for tomorrow, all of this stuff. So I'm like, my God, these people are more Christians than the Christians, you know. And so I was just thinking about the hypocrisy of it. But the thing that amazed me is, well, why do you chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna? So they were telling me about Krishna, who is like the main personality of God.
Sure.
He is also like the incarnate of one of the Hindu gods, like the major god. So then the major god came down to earth as a human being kind of thing.
Sure.
And what was interesting then, I tried to look up online and read some stories about Krishna. And it was fascinating. It was like this guy was, I mean, he was just a regular human. He was a very strong man, and he grew up as a cowboy, and then he became a king. And but it was interesting in his childhood. He was a thief. He used to break into people's homes and steal butter and candy.
It's important to understand that I think for most of the people that I know that are come from a Hindu tradition, not the Christian, they look at Krishna as like a character.
As a what character?
Like a character that is a teaching tool.
I got to actually cut it off. They're actually rolling the credits on me. The show's about over. I apologize.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Call back next week, and maybe we can talk to it more. Or you can email tv@atheist-community.org, and that'll get to us. We'll be able to address it. Thanks to the people who are not incompetent, despite our little April Fool's joke, for putting the show together. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
We gave her the last word.
Good.